The earth supports you being here. When you are in your heart, because you are operating from a system that is good for you and for everybody, including balance with the earth, including balance with the other beings that exist here on earth, the animals, the plants, all of this sort of thing, nature itself. When you operate from the heart, you're in union with the whole organism of the earth.
Welcome to Spread Your Third Eye podcast. We have Georgia Jean, and we are bringing in the Circle of Light today.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you again so much for having us, Mia. We really appreciate it. And just wanted to say, because I've done a bit of chitty chatting on some of your episodes, and for your viewers out there who are like, what was this lady just talking about this stuff? I just want to reiterate that all the information I'm sharing about consciousness and how reality is created is because I've been channeling this collective, the Circle of Light, since it's been nearly 20 years. So when I'm talking, this isn't just stuff I'm like, oh, this sounds cool or fun. It's literally from all the teachings. And we have thousands of recordings that will reiterate this information in our library. If people are interested in like why I'm saying the stuff that I'm saying, some of it sounds pretty nutty, like bend the matrix. It's coming from this big reservoir and body of work from channeling them for so long.
And for those of you who have not seen the earlier episodes, let's introduce who the channeler is. I'm sorry, not we know Georgia, but who the circle is.
Oh, yeah. So the Circle of Light is a collective of non-physical consciousness that I basically drop my egoic mind and allow their consciousness to come in and to speak through me. Sounds a little out there, but I verbally channel their consciousness. But also whenever I'm channeling, it's also a broader frequency that's coming in to help elevate people's awareness, understanding, their beingness, so they can understand more of, how reality is created, basically.
And just to wrap our minds around this, you say you're channeling broad spectrum consciousness, but before they were saying to help us understand a little bit, we're channeling certain beings, like angels and healers,
ascended masters,
but now that's morphed into something different to help us understand even more
how consciousness is all connected like an ocean, basically.
So they don't like to say that they're an actual being in a dimension coming through.
So because over the years I've had my own consciousness cracked like over and over. It's not the funnest part of my job, but
makes you the best channeler, in my opinion.
But it's sort of like, in order to channel higher frequencies, I myself have to have my own ideas about, reality and broken down more and more, so I can bring in these higher frequencies and share these sort of bigger concepts. So initially when they came through, I think to help us understand this idea that there is energy speaking to us, we like this idea of these kind of individual entities. But outside of the human egoic framework, it's more like a big ocean of consciousness. And then there are certain streams that are going to be the best response to a certain question or need that we have. So when we think about angelic energies, a lot of the times we're thinking about supportive, loving beings that help us. And that's what that consciousness really is. But our minds have kind of created this idea specifically of, like Archangel Michael looks like this and he has wings and he carries a sword. Does it really look like that out there in the ocean of infinite intelligence? I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But the presence of that energy, the stream of that energy, which is,
Will you channel Archangel Michael ever, or Christ consciousness, or Mother Mary, the ones that we know over
they've all been
part.
I've channeled all of these energies as pure streams of them. So I can channel like a whole bunch of different energies basically, and I can channel them as a group collective too. And wherever someone's question is kind of going to, that's where the energy. So if the Christ consciousness energy is the right energy for someone's need, the Christ consciousness energy is very much like super unconditional loving energy.
Mm.
And it came into our planet at a pivotal time in our evolution where we went from love as a survival emotion, a feeling that we had in order to survive, like a mother loves her children because that's what motivates her to feed them and keep the tribe going. You know, if a mother didn't love her children, there'd be no like bonding emotion to feed them, and then the tribe would just die, right? So love initially was much more of a survival emotion. Now we can have love for when Christ consciousness and when the figure Christ came, it was like love your neighbor as your own. It was basically about love that isn't just about survival or what I can get out of this person, but just love for love. So when somebody needs to connect more to having unconditional love, both the Mother Mary energy and the Christ consciousness energy, which kind of work in a dyad together, and they hold that frequency of just, you're worthy of love, you're worthy of feeling love, unconditional love. It's a really beautiful energy. Yeah.
Well, maybe one of these times when you channel, we can call on them.
Yeah, for sure.
So today we want to go over, we talked about, getting into your heart center, helping to manifest your highest timeline. And then we talked about living in the moment.
Yep.
That's the last episode, and how to be in receiving your chair, receiving everything around you. And now let's talk about grounding and with Mother Earth, and then go segue into your pineal gland. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, well, let's bring it. We're going to bring it in the circle for this one. You know, I like to talk a bit, and they like to talk a bit, and we both thought, how about time on the mic? Then the circle will be like, "Shut up, Georgie, you're not getting it right," and they'll start messing with my mouth, so I can't speak anymore.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, they will do that if I'm starting to say things that are actually like, not. They're like, and I'll be like, I can't. Okay. So they start doing their Jedi mind tricks on me, like, okay, get out of the way. But I can feel their energy coming in. I think they're ready for an appearance. Okay. So here we go. Hi, yes, indeed, dear ones, we are here and we are most delighted to make connection with you here on another magnificent day in your earth plane. It's always a great delight for us to come forward in this way, and we are truly here to be of service. So how can we be of assistance to you today, dear ones?
For co-creating this experience with us.
Indeed, it is always a great joy.
So we want to talk about not only are we using our heart to manifest our highest desires.
Indeed,
and
yes.
also being and receiving.
Indeed,
in the now.
Yes. Very important, yes.
But why don't you kind of talk about the earth and our relationship to the earth and why we need to be grounding, and then also talk about, since this is called Spread Your Third Eye, let's go into your pineal gland and what's that doing for us later.
Indeed. All right. So all of these things have a place in the spectrum of creation. So when we talk about grounding with the earth, and Georgia was talking about this idea of radical non-resistance and how that puts you into receivership, how it gives you access to more energy when you don't resist, for example, that there have been a lot of unpleasant events in the human consciousness experience. But when you move out of the states of judgment, which creates resistance, you're able to receive more of the energy of creation with which you can manifest a new experience with, because we are coming through to help humanity manifest a new collective experience since you're sort of done with some of these old storylines. So one of the core illusions that happens when you incarnate as a tiny baby through your parents, and you're a little baby and you have these parents, your consciousness becomes programmed at a very early age to believe that your physical material experience is supported by those parental figures. Now, of course, in the little me storyline, the parent is feeding the baby and keeping the baby alive. So that makes sense in the linearity of the little me experience. But what we want you to understand from a consciousness perspective is the true supporter of you as a physical entity here on this planet is the earth consciousness, because the earth consciousness holds the true supporter of your physical incarnation is the earth consciousness, because everything that becomes physicalized here on earth happens through a merging of broader intelligence, the codes of creation that are within broader intelligence. So when we sort of talk about that idea of like the brain of God, the programs that generate anything in any dimension, any realm, there's an intelligence behind all of that. So that kind of intelligent program merging with the intelligence of the earth consciousness that will bring something into physicalization.
So it's not that your body is creating with the egg and the sperm, but it's something else. How do you grow the body, but also talk about bringing the spirit and the earth consciousness together?
Good. So, all right. Ooh, big question. Here we go. So, again, we'll say anything that is physically manifest here on earth is, so what we should actually introduce at this point, which may help you understand, is the earth is a consciousness itself. The earth has an intelligence that knows how to physically materialize. So just in the same way as you are a consciousness that knows how to create something. So, for example, you are now creating this podcast. So you're a physical consciousness who exists as Mia, who's also now creating a podcast, which is sort of something outside of yourself. But this podcast wouldn't exist without you having some intelligence to put it together. So in that same way, the earth consciousness is a body consciousness that can hold, almost like a theater, create a sort of a container for other things to exist. But none of those things can exist without the participation of the earth consciousness. Do you see? Just in the same way as this podcast that's coming from you wouldn't exist without you generating it. So you are essentially contributing to the physicalization of this podcast. And that's sort of how it works. It's a better way for us. Sometimes we have to kind of take you backwards to understand how is creation emanating anyway from anything. There's almost like
So
you
it's
are the
helping
host.
Create the mom and the dad and bring intelligence with them to help create.
Yes. So even the idea of sperm, egg, all of this stuff, none of that physicalized creation exists without what we call the codes of creation from Earth itself, saying this is how we'll make an egg, a body. But it's also fed by source consciousness itself, which feeds all creation of everything, including the earth consciousness too. So it's sort of like a merging between the two in the same way as now your idea of having a podcast, which came from something that wasn't physical, became physical. So you could say the idea came from source of all, but merged with your physicality to become something. So when you are creating and manifesting, it's the same thing. You, each one of you who's watching this as a physical being, you're having these ideas, you're calling in, source consciousness, how could something become? But it's also matched with the codes of creation from Earth so it can become physically materialized. And why this is really important, dear ones, why we want you to understand this is because many of our dear ones who are incarnated at this time and who are wanting to evolve the consciousness of the human experience on Earth, well, you are human consciousness because you could not have a human body without being human consciousness. But you're also consciousness that has evolved elsewhere. And so sometimes the Earth consciousness feels unfamiliar to you.
When you say evolved elsewhere,
you are consciousness that has evolved in other dimensional realms, other planetary realms, other playing fields out there in the spectrum of all that is. There are all these kind of creative playing fields where consciousness is exploring itself, saying, well, if I am this and I add this, what happens then? Like its own ever-evolving algorithm of exploratory creativity. So some of these other realms where you have evolved as consciousness through exploration look or feel a little bit like what you might experience here. Some not at all. But you are bringing that intelligence that has evolved elsewhere to, in fact, hybridize the human creative consciousness into a new version. Just like if you had roses, you have, I love this pink rose and I love this yellow rose, but I want to kind of create an orangey colored rose. You would hybridize the roses together, and now you have a new creative form. And because you have played out a lot of the old human collective storylines, you're wanting to open up a new spectrum of experience, just in the same way, dear ones, that when plane travel was invented, suddenly people could access places on the world that they would never have been able to explore a creative experience in because now they could fly there. So it's almost like a mini reincarnation without dying. You can go to another place and experience a new life. But we're sort of going off track here a little bit. What we want you to understand why grounding is important is because the earth feeds all physical manifestation, from this chair to a tree, to a pen, to a human being, to a dog, to a skyscraper. All of the codes that bring forth physical manifestation come from the earth. So if you are not connected to the earth, you're inhibiting receiving the matching codes that would materialize an idea into form, into physical manifestation. And if you're feeling disconnected from the earth and you're missing that, well, you're really disconnected from receiving the abundance of the earth, receiving the gifts of the earth, receiving everything that's beautiful that could be created here by you, because you're not plugged in properly. It's sort of like having a TV that could be filled with wonderful TV shows that you want to watch, but you're never plugged in. So you never get to see or experiencing them. So grounding is a way where you go, okay, I'm here on earth. So anything that I am creatively thinking about, and many of you do have a lot of sense of expansive creative thinking because you have aspects of your consciousness that are really connected with the infinite field of creation. They're not actually used to as much resistance to creation that the egoic framework has created. So you feel this great potential for creation, but it's not quite happening. Why? Because your TV's not plugged in to the earth matrix that will actually generate those concepts and ideas into a physicalized, materialized reality. And we want you to have that experience here on earth. We want you to understand that the beautiful earth consciousness, if you put aside most of the suffering that has happened in the human experience, has happened at the hand of the human experience. Meaning that most of the suffering that happens is perpetrated by the hand of other humans. When you look at what the earth creates in its most magnificent, abundant form, there's so much beauty and there's so much delightful creation that can happen here. But if you're not plugged in, you're not getting that experience. And the more you may resist even being here as a human being, which sort of continues to perpetrate a cycle of suffering for those who don't feel that connection here.
How often do you have to ground, and how do you ground?
Wonderful. So, first of all, one of those powerful experiences of just being in the now moment, and again, using the physical senses to just lock in and go, oh, I as consciousness, I know I'm an infinite being, but right here, right now, I am here. And if you look around and you receive what is manifest, you're starting to get more grounded here in this moment now, in this lifetime now, because this is where you're here to receive your creative experience. When you end this life, you're going to return to the oneness with the infinite of everything. So don't resist that you're here. And the other simple, powerful way is to just really put attention into your feet and feel that earth connection.
Like actually touching the earth, or just
touching the earth, and just even enough sometimes just to focus on the feet. So why it's sort of it's energetic and it's conceptual at the same time. So your mechanism for embodiment, which is the physical body and the energetic system that's sort of operating through the physical body, as well as the brain, the nervous system, all of this sort of stuff. This is the vessel for your creative consciousness to come into something, the avatar through which you experience life, just as like when you're playing a computer game and you go, okay, well, it's going to have pink hair and have a shield or something. This is like the vessel that you operate your character through. So this is the body. Now, of course, most people should be aware that you have a chakra system as well. The chakra system is like the perception projectional mechanism. And each of the chakras sort of projects and perceives a certain aspect of the creative experience. Now, the root chakra is the chakra where you really plug into the earth. So it's the power outlet to be like, okay, I'm here on earth, I'm going to plug in here. And the sacral chakra is really where the chakra that generates the physicalized material life. So these lower chakras are very connected to, I'm here on earth and I'm physically manifesting. So some of the ways when we talk about bringing your attention to feet, you're also bringing more energy into the lower chakras and your connection to the earth. Now, a lot of people have done spiritual work, which is about opening up the connection through the higher chakras, the connection to
the third eye,
the broader consciousness,
the heart,
which is also fine. But if you don't have the lower chakras open, the potential that you gain through understanding a sense of broader consciousness can't become physically materialized for you to experience if these chakras aren't also equally open. So you need the whole system open so you can actually bring that higher potential of existence into your human experience. And so on an individual level, this is your higher potential becoming physically manifest. You not just operating from a limited set of beliefs, saying, oh, you're not good enough to have your creativity expressed in its highest timeline, as he put it. So maybe now you're just operating out of a more, we don't want to say robot, like you're a robot, but an automatic program that was kind of given to you, as opposed to the programs that you can receive when you really connect to your broader self. So you're operating more from like, well, my mother said I should be this, or my father said I should be this, or this is what is expected of me as this role. So you open up the higher elements so you can bring in more of your expanded consciousness to move in. But for that potential to be fulfilled, if this is your soul path, your soul mission to create this podcast, if you didn't really ground it into something, you would never buy the cameras, you would never actually make it.
Yeah.
Do you see, dear
Yeah.
one? So you open up the lower chakra so you can bring that fulfillment now, not just individually, but collectively. The collective of humanity. How can the collective of humanity live in these higher timelines beyond the old survival struggle, which is the 3D program, and more plugged into the heart-generated reality, which is, well, there's abundance for everybody. There's high potential for everybody. How can reality look here physically materialized if you're operating from that level instead of the old survival struggle?
So living in the now opens up your lower chakras as well as grounding and paying attention to your feet or putting your awareness in your feet.
Living in the now moment and in the physicalized now moment helps to open up, yes, that I'm bringing this potential into a physicalized expression now where I can receive it now.
Okay.
Living in the now always allows you to receive what you're putting out there everywhere that you want to have create and manifest. So
And
that
that's part
definitely
of
helps.
grounding.
That's part of grounding. So the more you, but we want you to help you understand that there's something in a mechanism of saying, all right, I'm here on earth now, and I'm going to let the powerful, energetic, creative system of the earth support me here and support me in this higher potential. Because guess what? You're not a baby anymore. You're not a baby dependent on the parents to feed you. As you grow up, and as you grow up in terms of consciousness, you're here to bring forward something special that is unique to you, to your heart blueprint, and how that merges with the evolution of the collective heart blueprint. You have something unique to bring in, and you don't want to be governed by your parental programming at that point. Certainly there can be parental programming that's very useful and helpful and make you have a good self-esteem if you get good parenting and all this sort of thing. But you're still a unique expression. And at a certain point, it's important to understand that your expression as consciousness is ultimately supported by the earth. And if you're grounded with the earth, you will always, initially, your parents were of the earth, providing for you, supplying you. That was the way the earth provided what you needed to live, was through the parents who are also of the earth. But as you evolve, you're pulling in more of your creative consciousness. The earth supports you being here. When you are in your heart, because you are operating from a system that is good for you and for everybody, including balance with the earth, including balance with the other beings that exist here on earth, the animals, the plants, all of this sort of thing, nature itself. When you operate from the heart, you're in union with the whole organism of the earth. That includes everything. That's why a lot of heart-centered creations serve not just the person who's creating, but perhaps the environment as well, perhaps some other different aspect of the earth. They're not taking away in order, that's the win-loss experience isn't there. It's a win for everybody, including the earth. So this is why a lot of your bigger issues of how to live on earth can be solved by collective heart centering, because you're not going to develop technologies, government institutions, banking institute, all of these things that have been coming from the mind in the past that work out of harmony with the earth. So a lot of the times when people think about a new consciousness reality, when they visualize it, it looks like communities that are more connected to the earth or harmonizing in some way, because that is how heart centering works, because it's in union with everything. But it's tapping infinite abundance in doing that. So even though the life, sometimes when people imagine it may look simpler, It's tapping infinite supply. So it's always provided for.
Being in your heart.
Being in your heart.
How often
unified
should
with
we
the earth.
ground or win? Or I know it's like you give me an ego and then you tell me live in the moment.
Yes.
So I'm like,
that's the game, dear ones. Enjoy the game. The path to mastery, we're not saying everything we're sharing is easy.
yes.
Yes.
So, I can't live in the moment. Every second I try to, as much as I can. And so I obviously can't ground every second unless I'm walking around barefoot.
Well, you're grounded in the moment when you're in the moment. So again, we want, because obviously you're still in a construct which uses linear time and space. So you have children, and next week there's something going on in school for them. And so you have to still plan in linear time. That's okay. If you were going, again, so if you're like, oh, my kids, whatever, they've got a school play, and so I need to get them costumes for next week. Now you're planning something in time. That can still be in the moment. It's when you go, oh my gosh, why is everything such a drag in my life that I have to, now you've gone into the psychological space where you're resisting. Being in the moment can be about being in tune with things such that you get a timely prompt to remind you to buy the costumes for the kids' school play next week. And that is going to be a far more efficient way. If you're in the moment, you will hear those prompts when the manifestation is coming most into alignment, that it is easy for you to get the perfect costumes for the kids that day. Now you're also starting to be informed by the pineal gland. So this is where this starts to come into, the earth consciousness seems to be just about what is physical and real. But really, it's also about intelligence that's communicating to you at all times.
Which goes to the pineal gland?
Which goes also to the pineal gland. So
is that where your soul comes in when you, well, I guess you're an egg.
We'll explain the pineal gland in the way that we can sort of support this idea that we're trying to share with you.
Okay.
So most of your physical material reality you're used to picking up and perceiving with your physical senses. And your physical senses are dialed in to perceive a certain range of frequency that when your brain picks it up, it creates something physical, like a chair. This has still got a frequency, but it's a frequency that creates a solidity. You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it. Your brain is saying this is real.
It's not.
Well, in all of consciousness, everything is actually not as real as it looks, dear ones. It's not as hard and physical as it looks. Everything is actually mutable in all of consciousness. That's why things change. So the other intelligence that's coming in is what is lying outside of your physical senses. And the pineal gland is what we call the multidimensional processor of the brain. So that is what's picking up information outside of what the physical senses are saying is real right now. So let's just say you don't even know your kids have a school play next week. But you get a little ping to buy these cute costumes one day when you're shopping. So you just buy these cute costumes. The kids come home from school and say, hey, we have a school play and we need a costume next week. And you're like, that's so weird. I already bought you the costumes for it and it's perfect alignment already. Now it's starting to feel a little more magical. So what is actually happening is your capacity to have a more open pineal gland means you're already tapped into the fact that in the future you're going to need costumes for your children, even though you haven't received anything on a physical sense. You haven't received a letter from school saying we need costumes. You're already attuned to the creation that's about to come into manifestation in the illusion of time further down the track. It's already starting to become real that the kids are going to do this school play. It's already starting to become real that they're going to need costumes. So you're actually already really picking up on the intelligence that's letting you know you're going to need costumes. But in an open mind, in a grounded now moment, you would get that signal. You would hear it almost like it's real, just in the same way as if you're really aware in the now moment, you would see this letter. If you are somebody who's really out of tune with your now moment, the kids might even give you the letter saying they need the costumes, and then you're so caught up about worrying about something else, you didn't even see it, and then suddenly the kids are like, where are our costumes? You missed the information completely because you weren't present in the now moment taking it in. But the information could be physical, or it can be starting to come down that non-physical vibrational range, and the pineal gland, which has 12 energetic connection points to the brain, and depending on how partially or fully those connection points are open, is how much of that non-physical information you're receiving and already starting to process into manifestation, action, or activity that's going to line up with that future event. Have you ever done something and you already had the answer to something that was coming in? Do you see what we're saying here, dear one? That's how you can start, by being grounded. You're actually grounding into the spectrum of creative energy that's relevant for your life. And that's how people can be in tune, have their intuition, knowing which direction to take in their life, because they can already feel the potentialities of what's coming in, what's going to be successful if they go in this direction rather than this direction, even though they don't have all the physical information yet.
Yeah, interesting.
That's how why you're opening this up. You're starting to use your
clairvoyance,
these sort of ways of gathering information that lie outside of the physical senses. But the intelligence is already there. You have children and a husband, but right now they're not manifest in this room right now, but you know they exist. So we like to help you understand all this by this idea of knowingness and manifestation. They are the two states of creation. And we really want to get this across to people because it will help people become more aware of when their mind is distracting them with fantasies, ideas, blah, 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 that's actually keeping them out of the now moment, where the two states of creation can actually be received. Manifestation is what you are physically perceiving now.
Okay.
Knowingness is that something exists so strongly, it's so energetically created that even though you're not physically experiencing it right now, you know it exists. You don't doubt that your husband exists. He's already been physically manifest, so you know it. But he is in your creation. Even though you can't see him and your children right now, you know they exist. But what about something you haven't yet physically manifest, but coming down the pipeline as a creative experience because you've been putting out the intention for it, you want it, you're dreaming of it, you're hoping for it, whatever, all this thing, feel all this energy towards it. So it's coming into creation. Now, how do you know to take a turn to the left or the right so you can come into a logical point of place in time and space where that thing exists? It becomes manifest. You know where your bathroom is. It's not manifest right now, but when you go out the door, you'll go to a logical point of place in time and space where it exists. Well, you already knew where your bathroom was. That's obvious. But the truth is, in all of creation, that which lies outside of your current manifestation, if the energy of it's strong enough, it's as real as your bathroom is right now. But you have to get yourself to that logical point in place in time and space where it will become manifest.
Okay, so let me back up. So everything that you want is already existing and you just have to align with it.
Indeed.
Okay. So this is an interesting question. My bathroom, I already know, is manifest.
Indeed.
Because I'm not in there and it's not in my here and now, is it really manifest?
It is in one of the states of creation, which is knowingness. You know it exists.
So therefore, it truly is manifest even though I can't see it?
When you go to a logical point in place in time and space, it will become physically manifest.
But right now you said it will become.
So the two states of creation, knowingness and manifestation. The rest is mind. So we would say it's in one of the two states of creation, because you know so strongly that it exists, that when you arrive at that logical point in time and space, it will become manifest. But it's not manifest right now.
No, I think that's interesting because I've heard another person
in the way we would explain this experience.
Yeah, because as somebody else said, and I thought that was really weird. She was channeling, and they said, when you drive away from the building just like goes away. It's not real. And I was like, well, how the hell does that?
Yes, it's not manifest anymore. And
So
this
it
is
goes
really
back into like electrons and protons or what?
It's so
this gets real weird.
Yes, it is. It's sort of these are some wild concepts to get around. This is to help you understand the mutability of your creation and why, from a broader perspective, you have so much power to actually change the matrix of your reality. So the unmanifest state. Remember, your brain is always giving you your experience.
My virtual reality.
It's your virtual reality. So when you have a video game and you're playing it, and it's real that you're playing it and you're in it, when you turn it off, does it exist or not anymore? It's kind of the same thing as what we're saying. Is it active manifestation?
Okay.
So when you go there, it's going to become an active manifestation. But the energy that would make it, so the video game exists in that when you turn it on, it's going to be there. So it does exist. It's in the two states of creation, but it's not actively manifest at that moment. It's not a
solid form right then.
It's not a solid form right there that you're actively engaging in.
Because this virtual reality all right now is a manifest of this room.
Yes.
And everything else, when I walk out, I'm continuously manifesting
it. Your brain is continually generating it. Your brain is going, well, when I walk out of this room, there's going to be a hallway, there's going to be a bathroom.
Because I am truly God consciousness creating an experience through my mind.
Yes, and your brain is the thing that's like building it right now, building it.
So no matter what, the point is that you really are always manifesting, and there is a lot of power behind the fact that you can truly bring in something
new. So when you're starting to get an idea, like this podcast was unmanifest at a point, and at a point it wasn't
even
even
go like this and get all my cameras and get all my microphones and like
because you had mind in the way. So the mind in the way, which is the stuff that you've been working on, is. Do I believe this is the psychological mind that interferes with all manifestation. So why doesn't it exist? Because before it was like, well, am I worthy of doing this? Can I do it? Do I know how to do it? Some of it may be like you just literally didn't have the intelligence yet on how to do it, which is the mind as a tool. So you had to buy the cameras, you had to sort of learn how to actually make the podcast. You had to use your mind as a tool to make it, to buy all the things to get the stuff together. But some of why it wasn't manifest is the mind, the psychological mind saying, am I worthy of doing it? Is this a good idea? Should I or shouldn't I do it? All of this stuff. All of this stuff is mind, and psychological mind. So that's when we start using the love and acceptance to dissolve the mind. Whenever there's mind, there's always energy. We also want to say this, remind and reiterate this point. Whenever there is mind, there's energy that's caught up in these other states of sort of not quite there. So when you use the tools, you're gathering energy from mind, you're giving it to your heart, and now your heart has more energy to make something manifest, like why we are here with Georgia. Why is Georgia here? It's partly planned, but it's also manifestation that it even lined up. So the heart alignment brought her here to be here with you to do this. Do you see? When you first saw Georgia on the TV show, you may never have thought this moment might happen. So it wasn't necessarily a linearity that brings Georgia here to do this with you now, do you see?
So outside the game of being human in other planets, they have talked about, like, I can build a spaceship with my intention.
Rapid manifestation, yes. Well, it's always intentional, but here on the earth plane, you need to do more physical action to make something happen. But here's where something's fun. So there's So we like this idea, the whole world is on my side working with me and for me. So say you want a car. So you have a Tesla car. You have a nice Tesla car that's manifest. Now, in the linearity of your mind, so we'll finish off this idea here into this camera in here. So the linearity of your mind is saying, for me to have a car, first of all, I have to make enough money to earn it. I have to feel worthy of having it. Also, there's this whole factory that's got to build it, so on, so on. But what you experience as manifestation is that the car is out there. And whether there was really a factory that ever built it.
Whoa. Wow. Interesting.
So your intention manifested it. And in your mind, there's a whole logical story with Elon Musk and all of this stuff and how the Tesla exists. But did you ever see any of that actually happen? No. So with your intention, you manifested the car.
Wow.
Yes. If you went to the factory and watched the whole thing being built, then you would have an even more linear response to how that car. But this is why we want you to understand 2 states of creation, knowingness and manifestation. The rest of the other stuff that happens behind the scenes, when you go into your heart and say, the whole world is on my side working with me and for me, you are actually harnessing that whole energy of everything that is unseen to you, working with you and for you to bring this here into your manifestation. And it actually doesn't matter how all of that happens. If you just say, okay, I don't know how I'm going to have a Tesla, but when I'm in my heart, the whole world is on my side working with me and for me, I'm going to align with this manifestation. Now, at a certain point, your heart may say, hey, enter this competition to win a Tesla, or buy these shares that suddenly went up in value. So now you have the money in the linear storyline to buy the Tesla.
Or maybe it's still a linear
there's
storyline.
still some sort of linear storyline, but the more you're aligned with my knowingness is I can have this Tesla, you're going to manifest that storyline to get that Tesla or whatever it is. So this is why we say trust the heart, trust the whole. If you stop resisting anything in all consciousness, all of it is working with you and for you to bring you that thing that in your heart you have a desire for.
So you truly can manifest your dream life, and it's not as hard as we think.
It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah.
You just got to get out of your mind.
Yes. Okay, well, let's wrap this episode up with that.
Indeed.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, yes.
And we can find Georgia and the Circle of Light and all their work on Circle Evolution.
CircleEmotion.com. Ben the Matrix is a wonderful boot camp Georgia also has about creation manifestation, how to harness all of these things.
Ooh.
And of course, we are always here to support you in understanding how consciousness creation really works.
We're lucky to have her.
Indeed, dear ones.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye. If you feel called to this work, maybe you'll be the next person to come hang out with me and Georgia in the studio to interview the Circle of Light. To apply, go to my website, spreadyourthirdeye.com, or click the link below, and I just might be seeing you in the studio next.